Marty.
I'm still happy. I'm happy. Yeah. Oh, wow.
Marty.
What is that?
I've got a bottle of whiskey. It's got your name on it. It's an American bottle of whiskey. And the reason why I got this is because you and we had a bet.
Yep.
You had a bet, and I was on a roll. For what is it, 2.5 years? I was saying, no, we don't have an election right around the corner. They're hanging on to power as long as they possibly physically can. And I've been winning bet after bet after bet on those lines. And
yeah,
finally, I stuck to my guns on this one because I thought, they might try to hold on to it. And you said no. And the wager was a bottle of American whiskey, which is contraband in Canada now, and it's hard to get your hands on.
Hopefully
this one's a nice one.
A nice 100% rye. I love it. Looks dark and nice and peppery. Hopefully,
it is not a rye. It's a blend. Well, it's a 40
okay.
number 40 blend from Traveler Whiskey, and they're right out of Frankfort, Kentucky. So this is a product of I had a bottle.
I'll be there in a couple of weeks, and I'll come visit you, and we'll drink it in person. Absolutely, or we'll figure it out. No, I mean the reason.
It'll have to be after I get back from Texas because I'm going to Texas for 10 days. So that's the thing.
No, and the reason I was pretty confident last week was we saw it, right? I was pretty confident that Carney did not want to go back to the House of Commons. I mean, the House of Commons was supposed to resume on Monday, and by we're really seeing it this week. Carney's not a politician. I mean, It was my thought that he needs to strike now with the tariff war going on and whatever, and his popularity, because the longer we hear him talk, the worse it's going to get for him. And so that's why I thought we wouldn't see Parliament resume. I think ultimately the Liberals are going to be what's the word, made a bad choice with Carney. I mean, they're gonna regret it.
And that's exactly it. The more he's around, the more people are starting to look into him. And the more people look into him, the worse it looks. It looks really, really bad. And you shared this on social media this week. This was, Carney's climate change agenda is clear. He wants a carbon tax at $170 a ton for carbon dioxide, more than double our current rate. He's a fanatical believer in net zero economy. Here's the clip that you posted.
The most effective policies for accelerating emissions reductions are those policies that are very clear and provide certainty and incentives for businesses and for financial institutions to act. In Canada, there's a carbon price, and it is legislated. At the end of this decade, that carbon price is $170 per ton. The carbon price today in Canada is $50 a ton. But financial institutions and businesses know that if they take action today, they're saving that cost, because that's the decisive point.
That's the decisive point. We're going to get taxed. So if you start taxing yourself now, we're doing better. What?
Yeah, well, and I wanted to share that with people. Actually, I'm quite surprised that video is on the World Economic Forum's website. They haven't taken it down. I'm surprised they haven't taken it down. But what's the expression? A tiger doesn't change his stripes, or a zebra doesn't change his stripes. Carney won't change his stripes. I mean, he's told us. In fact, he's told us in a 600-page book that he wrote what his philosophy is. The guy is an authoritarian, right? He kind of feels that that the world needs a great reset, and he's the guy to lead it. And when they talk about great resets, it's always them in control. He doesn't trust humanity to make the right decisions. He doesn't trust markets. He says he believes in free markets, but that they need to be
he
guided.
In his book, he talks about that. He talks about how the market economy is a failure. He cites Karl Marx. He cites Engels. I mean, these are not for one, they're not champions of the free market. That's for sure.
Yeah. So
he's got this. Well, and I wanted to add to this. So this is going along with Klaus Schwab and his idea of what the market economy should evolve into. This idea of stakeholder capitalism. It is no different from some of the other countries, like the guy with the funny mustache.
Yep.
And his economic policies, and modern day China, where everything is basically a perfect merger between state and corporation. And those are the stakeholders. When they say stakeholder capitalism, they're not talking about us. They're not talking about the people of the area, the people of the lands. They're not talking about populism. They're talking about elitism, and they're talking about cronyism and making sure that all the wealth stays in the hands of a very few. And it's a failure of a policy every time it's been implemented. We know this.
Absolutely. I mean, he wants to pick the winners and losers, and based on criteria that he selects, right? And that clip is only a short portion. The entire clip is about 3 minutes long. And when you listen to his whole 3-minute long clip, he talks about whatever, the new economy, the reset, and how the new economy is needed for whatever, net zero, green, all the usual stuff. And right now he's on the campaign trail trying a little to distance himself from that. But every time you let him talk, it slips. It keeps coming up. And he's not going to change who he is. He wants to do this. And he's been put there. He's been selected to finish the job that Trudeau couldn't finish. So
speaking of the campaign trail, I love this because there's been the challenge. The challenge is, of course, for Mark Carney to speak French and do it in a debate against Pierre Poilievre. And I just got to show the clip because it cracked me right up. This is them asking in French if he's going to join that, and he scoffs at them and mocks them. That he of course he's not scared to debate Pierre in French.
Bonjour, Monsieur Carney, c'est Fanny Olivier de Radio-Canada. Le chef conservateur Pierre Poilievre vous met au défi de participer au face-à-face de TVA. Est-ce que vous allez le faire?
Pourquoi pas?
Pourquoi pas?
Oui, pourquoi pas? Oui. Il y aura.
Bon.
And then he backed down right after the speech. After the speech went live, he backed out of it.
They gave him a great excuse to back out. You know, to be clear, he is still doing one French debate, the one on CBC, and he's doing an English debate. He was asked if he was one of the medias in Quebec. TVA is a Quebec media. They wanted a second French debate, but then he had the great excuse saying they wanted to charge him $75,000. But I mean, he honestly,
this is where it gets so funny though, Marty.
Yeah.
In response to that, and this is the Pierre Poilievre that everybody wants to see. This isn't, the one we've been seeing prior to this is kind of crappy, the PR Poilievre, but this is the Pierre Poilievre people want to see. Breaking major news: Pierre Poilievre offers to pay Carney's the $75,000 for the French language debate, and here he is saying this.
Though I want to just say that I want to challenge Mark Carney to show up for the debate at TVA in Quebec. He's running away and hiding because he believes that he's too weak to defend the lost Liberal decade or explain why he thinks Liberals deserve a fourth term. Let's have a debate in French where we put together the choice. Either a fourth Liberal term after costs and crime have gone up, and our economy has gone down under the American thumb, or putting Canada first for a change with a new conservative government that will build the homes. I'll even pay Mr. Carney's fee so that he can show up. We'll take that excuse away from him. Conservatives will even pay the fee to bring him out. If he's not afraid. And by the way, if he is afraid to have the debate, how is he going to have the courage to stand up against Donald Trump?
Ooh.
It's going to take someone who's strong enough to do that. And if he's not afraid, then he'll show up at that debate. I'm not afraid, and I'm ready to enjoy that debate with him.
I love this. This is the Pierre that we want to see, right? Like punch.
He's finding his stride right now. He's finally finding his stride, which is good.
Well,
it
really is good there. And a lot of the things that he's coming forward with, they are good sounding plans. But at the same time, some of it is kind of, you want to renew existing programs for trades workers. I mean, that's not very strong coming out of the gates. That's just renewing stuff that already exists that it was about to expire.
he's had some good promises already. But before we get there, like the $75,000, a bunch of people reached out to me and said, "Hey, Marty, you got a big audience, right? Like if everybody donates $1 to you, it'll be like 75,000 in no time." They wanted me to set up a GoFundMe page, and I thought, I don't want to be accused of interference, right? I mean, that's the big thing right now. Everybody's doing interference. So I thought, nah, I better not, or I'm going to actually, no joke, right? I got in trouble 3 years ago with Elections Canada, 3 or 4 years, whatever, the last election in 2021. Like I took a picture of my ballot in the ballot box and I put it on Twitter. I got a letter from Elections Canada, man. They slapped me on the wrist. They threatened me. And what's
the punishment for that though?
It's illegal to I don't know what the punishment would be, but they told me it's illegal according to the Elections Act to show who you voted for. I'm like, what? But it just goes to point. It was just one of those things. I don't want to get it. It's our authorities go after citizens. They don't go after politicians who break rules, but they'll come after me for telling the world who I voted for. Like it's so silly.
So that just reminded me of something that happened this week. So there was a lot of complaints about there was some third party agency that was out running ads against Pierre Poilievre. And for all intents and purposes, that's legal to do. You can do that. You can set up what in the US they would call like a super PAC. And as long as you're registered with Elections Canada, there's no minimums to how much people can donate to these things. And so, a lot of people are upset. Like that's not cool. That's not how it's supposed to be, but it's legal. And because they're doing it on that side, Ezra Levant got in and said, well, I guess I'm going to do it then. So he started his own, essentially a super PAC, a third party, I guess, campaigning group, and they're raising money, and you can go donate way past the legal maximum.
Yeah, you just have to register with Elections Canada or whatever. I mean, I actually thought about doing it 3-4 months ago in case, right? Just because they're coming after groups. I mean, I had a chat with them. I had a chat with Friends of Science, and they told me right now they're being a little bit quiet because same thing. They don't want to be accused of interfering in the election. It's a sad state, right? It's a really, really sad state that we've gotten to this point where, well, actually, it's a big topic. Actually, it's a funny topic. Let's talk about, they're trying to silence
before you
us.
go into that, because this is why Ezra Levant did this, because he wrote a book called The Libranos, the last election cycle, and they came after him and they made him take the book down.
I remember that. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And that was election interference, but he's a private citizen. He can advocate for whatever he wants with whatever platform he's got, but they came in and they said, no, you can't do that. You have to be registered in order to do this kind of thing.
Yeah. I wonder what the limit is, right? Like I said, I genuinely worry that some of the things we say could be viewed as that. No, I don't worry. Let me rephrase that. It's not going to change who I am and what I say online, but they're going to try. There's a lot of talk lately. I mean, I can't remember his name, the director of Elections Canada or whatever, one of those guys was on the record this week talking about that, saying that that Elections Canada is going to talk to the main platforms to try and get a handle on what they call misinformation. It's not up to them to decide what's misinformation or what's information or not. Like it's, I don't know why they. Well, actually, did you see the funny story about that? Did you see Rachel Gilmore?
Okay.
Or maybe it's too early. Let's save that one for later.
That's a great segue, actually. I mean, I might as well just pull it up because this is just way too funny. You can't make this stuff up, folks.
No, you can't.
So yeah, for one, I don't think it's good that the government would come in and tell you what's true and what isn't. But that being said, like we on this YouTube channel, we say like we're telling you the truth. This is the truth. This is how we see it, that kind of thing. So I guess, CTV or CBC or any of these groups, they could do the same thing. And do they ever? And when they do, is it hilarious or not? I mean, it doesn't get any funnier than this. And I don't know if it needs much of an introduction. Some people know who Rachel Gilmore is, but apparently CTV has hired left-wing YouTuber Rachel Gilmore to work as their fact checker during the election season. This is from Pleb the Reporter. Let me play this.
Yeah, if you want to make an informed decision, it's best not to do it on mis or disinformation. Journalist Rachel Gilmore, it's been great to have you on your morning. And I want to let everybody know you're going to join us every week throughout this campaign for a Fact Check Friday. We're going to take a closer look at what's been said throughout the week on the campaign trail. You're going to fact check it for us every Friday. Can't wait for that. Thanks so much, Rachel.
I am so excited.
Yeah, if you...
So excited. So for people who don't know who this is, Rachel Gilmore, she was the one who was fired from Global News. Was it Global News? Yes, Global News. And she was fired after a series of stories that were misinforming people about in particular individuals. So one in case in particular was James Topp was marching across the country, and so Pierre Poilievre apparently was making a visit with him. And so Rachel Gilmore wanted to use him as a juxtaposition to make Pierre Poilievre look bad. So accused him of being a white supremacist in that. And it's completely unsubstantiated. Nowhere, anywhere was there any reason to call him that. And it was defamatory, and there was threats of lawsuits. I don't know what ended up happening with it, but she was let go from her job and then went on to just be a peddler of all kinds of funny things.
Failure after failure in all her ventures and everything else. I mean, she was also made famous about 3 months ago when she was in a committee in the House of Commons to talk about misinformation. I mean, I can't believe they invited her, and that's the one where she was literally talking like a valley girl from California, where like, I have some big ideas on this and whatever. I'm going to have fun with her because I've talked to a couple of people, and we're going to do play that one. Just the introduction. Like,
Hey, everyone. Thanks for having me. This is obviously a very important topic, and I have some big feelings about it.
Oh, yeah, big feelings.
Hey, everyone.
Yeah. Oh, man. This is...
So I'm going to do we're going to do, maybe you and I can do this as a mini segment next week. We'll fact check a couple of her fact checks, because I'm going to keep an eye on her. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, absolutely. Fact checking the fact checkers. I mean, it's that just goes back and forth over and over again. And I mean, again, it's like as what was it? Elon's razor. Elon's razor is kind of a take on Occam's razor. Is that the most likely outcome will be the most ironic or entertaining. And here we are, folks. Here we are, folks, in the 2025 election cycle for Canada. But what's crazy is, like, you know, when American election cycles come up, it's a big to do. It takes months and months. It's well over a year to do an election cycle, because over there for a presidential election cycle, there's mandatory primaries, which I wish we did in Canada. I think that would be a good step in the right direction. With dated elections, I don't know if I like the idea of these. You know, they get to call the election when they feel like, when it's most politically expedient for them. I think it should be set date elections and do more like the Americans do. But I know, obviously, there's gonna be a lot of people in the chat saying, "Well, but we're not American," and that's how we define ourselves as Canadians.
Yeah.
But the crazy thing is, this is all going to be over in 5 weeks. This is a very quick cycle. It's a very quick process. And it's over before you even think of it. So, like, getting people to get out, get registered is such an important thing. If you want your voice to be heard in this, you got to register. You got to make sure they know who you are, and you got to have your ID in order, and you got to make sure that it's got your correct address on it. It's not like the United States in that way, where there are no areas where you have to have your ID wherever you go. Absolutely.
Right. And then, you know, if history has shown us in the last year, like, look at all the elections we've had in the last year, Canadians are losing a bit of confidence in our people that manage our elections. So I've said this many times, right? Make it too big for them to cheat. Like, you got to get out, folks. I don't care if you're liberal or conservative or whatever your vote is, get out and vote. Make it so big that it can't be cheated. But speaking of primaries, yeah, I'd love to have primaries or something equivalent to it, right? But even here, where there are primaries, they turn out to be useless, right? Look at what happened this week. Sean Fraser in Nova Scotia, right? He had announced earlier before Christmas that, I'm not going to run again, right? Back when the polls were down, I'm not running again. I want to take time to stay with family. And then this week, he announced, oh no, I've changed my mind. I want to run. And they had already selected, his constituency association in Nova Scotia had already selected an MP. But then because he decided to change his mind, Carney said, oh yeah, to that guy, you're out, and go ahead, Sean, jump in. And then look at what Carney did. Oh yeah, like that was, and look at what Carney did in Nepean. Carney's running in Nepean, right? Like, hey folks, guess who was running in Nepean? No, guess who's the MP for Nepean for the last 3 years?
Chandra Arya.
Yeah, Chandra Arya.
The guy that they kicked out of the party. This is unreal. It's
completely unreal. I mean, the guy was. I can see maybe their logic where they kicked him out or not kicked him out. They disqualified him as a leadership candidate, which I thought was crap.
But they let him stay a liberal. Yeah,
but then they went one step further. Now they disqualified him as an MP, even though he had been elected 3 times by his. I honestly think Carney might lose his seat in Nepean because the Conservatives put a super candidate. They put a lady who's a soldier, and I think she's a lawyer, doctor. Like, they put a very powerful candidate there. She immediately got like 30,000 followers on Twitter. I volunteered. I said, I'll go door knocking with her, man. I'll fly to Ottawa and I'll go door knocking just to
really.
Just to see Carney lose in his riding.
Put your hat in the ring. So I have her here. For people who don't know who she is, her name is Barbara Ball. She's the woman who's going to be going to stop Carney from getting his seat while Carney is eating Grey Poupon and caviar, says Alex Zoltan on X. With the elites in Europe, she is serving as a reserve member of the Royal Canadian Artillery and keeping our streets safe. Here's a little bit from her.
And the facts are clear. Even if Justice Minister Varani is trying to convince Canadians that their eyes and their ears are deceiving them, crime is up in Canada. Stats Canada backs that up. In my hometown of Ottawa, calls for police are up. There's been 50 shootings citywide this year alone. Just last weekend, we had 8 innocent people shot, with 2 killed at a wedding. And the rising crime is nationwide. 2 days ago, 3 OPP officers were stabbed in the line of duty by a repeat violent offender. And we know that these violent crimes are going unchecked by poor decision-making by the Liberal government, who are more concerned about moral grandstanding than the reality that we see in our streets and our neighborhoods.
This sounds a lot more along the lines of what people are talking about, even in the Ottawa area. And that's the thing. Now, here's a funny thing. So she tweeted this out saying, Mark Carney is out to lunch or out of touch with Nepean because this is what he said in his speech.
I've been resident in Ottawa. I know Nepean well. I was best man to Peter Chiarelli, grew up in Nepean. So from Barhaven to Bell's Corners and in between.
Which are not even in Nepean.
They're not even there anymore. So this is what she points out. They're like, you talk about knowing that riding, you don't even know what's in the riding. That doesn't make much sense for you.
And Nepean, I went to university in Ottawa, so I kind of know the area a little bit. Nepean is actually a little bit south and a little bit west of the main Ottawa core. It's kind of the area of the airport, and it is like any airports, in any major Canadian city, airports are kind of like always on the wrong side of the tracks kind of thing. So it's a blue collar neighborhood. I think she's going to do very well there, and I'm surprised. In fact, I'm actually quite surprised that Carney chose to run there. Carney didn't want to run. He didn't want to run in Ottawa Centre or whatever, like against Poilievre. He didn't want to run those, those ridings.
But why was Chanda Arya like the pick for Nepean? He was based.
He was totally based. Absolutely.
And that's the thing. Like, and here's how it works. So, when Aaron O'Toole is your leader in the Conservatives, you got to follow Aaron O'Toole's thing. This is how Canadian politics work. It's the whip of the party. You have to follow the leader, and that you may not like that, but that's the way it is. In fact, I really don't like. I like the having principles, that kind of thing. But nonetheless, this is how it goes. So when they picked Pierre Poilievre, now the Conservatives follow Pierre Poilievre. So he is the leader of the party. When Chandra Arya was under Justin Trudeau, he had to do what the Liberals were doing under Justin Trudeau. And then he was given a chance to be the leader of the Liberal Party. And so he comes out with all these based suggestions where he's like, we need to be this kind of Liberal Party because this is the kind of Liberal I am, he says. And sure enough, that's what the people of Nepean like. And that's great. What? So
he's still running in Nepean. So Chandra is running as an independent. So he might keep his Liberal voters. Like he raised money, right? He raised hundreds of thousands of dollars, and he's part of the community. Been there for 3 terms, man. 12 years.
That's big.
So, yeah, that's totally big.
So
that's
so he might
split watch.
The vote. He might be the more successful version of Max Bernier splitting the vote, but for the Liberals in this case, and hand the vote over to her. I'd love to see that. I'd love to see, even if they fix it in for the Liberals and Carney gets in, he'll be sitting up in the rafters as Prime Minister. But where do you think it's going, Marty? Where do you think it's going? Do you think it's going for a Pierre Poilievre, or do you think the Liberals are going to pull this one off? Because
the polls are going. The polls, right? So far, all the polls we have are up till Sunday, right? So we don't have any fresh polls, even though we have polls that have been, say, published yesterday. The data was collected before on Sunday. On Sunday, like Frank at Ecos had like the Liberals winning all of the United States at this point. Frank was drawing like the whole country red, right? So no, I think I've actually felt good. Here, let's put it this way. Did you see, you showed that clip was from Alex Zoltan. Did you see Alex running around your town and interviewing people?
It wasn't my town. He wasn't.
Where was he?
Yeah, he was in Vancouver. Let me pull it up.
I call it your town, Vancouver. Close enough.
Vancouver ain't my place, man. No way in town. No one else. But let me pull it up because that was a fantastic clip. Of course, Alex having so many clips that I have to cycle through all of them to find that one.
So while he's looking for that, folks, the clip is funny because people really don't have a clue who Mark Carney is, and I think we're going to learn about the real Mark Carney in the coming days, and I think his popularity is going to drop really, really quickly as people get to know him. But so Alex walked around town asking people if they knew. Yeah, there you go.
Randy, what's your name?
My name is Alex.
Alex, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Randy.
Okay.
Just curious, we're doing a poll today. Do you know who the Prime Minister of Canada is?
Justin Trudeau.
No.
Oh, you want to tell me I'm wrong?
No, you are wrong, Randy. I'm sorry.
Am I not in the right country? You telling me I'm wrong?
Do you know who the Prime Minister of Canada is?
Not anymore. I knew it was Trudeau last time.
You have no idea who the new one is?
Well, what for?
Yeah. Do you know who the Prime Minister of Canada is?
No.
That's okay. No.
So what for? Why bother?
They're in conversation right now.
I get no help if there's something weird going on in the world right now. I don't know what war is probably going to happen soon. I don't know what it is, but
no, the Prime Minister is Mark Carney. Do you know who that is?
Mark Carney? Yeah. Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm positive. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Well, do you know who the Prime Minister of Canada is?
I'll pass.
You'll pass. It is not Donald Trump, sir.
Look at this guy's face. Canada he was like, yeah, he is.
The new one?
Yeah.
I saw 3 days ago, but I don't remember. I cannot remind the name right now.
Okay, no problem. We're just curious if you know who the new Prime Minister of Canada is.
I don't know the name. Carney, right? Carney.
Carney, do you like him?
So far,
Oh, I must be somewhere else then. I have no idea about that answer.
Are you serious? Really?
Yeah.
That's okay. You're from Canada?
Well, I was in Toronto for a while, so I'm out here now. That's what it is.
Right on.
Yeah.
Right on. Awesome. Thanks,
Anything
Randy.
else to ask me?
No, that's it.
That's it.
That's it.
That was a no, but
Yeah.
So-
No, so I think it's gonna, honestly, based on what I've seen in the last couple of days and some of the comments, and I mean, Carney lost Quebec. As far as I'm concerned, Carney almost gave up on Quebec. Yeah, his French is horrible. The French media are asking him questions, and he gave an answer in English yesterday to a question, and the Quebec media said, "Can you repeat your answer in French, please?" And then he tried. He mumbled a couple of sentences, and then he went back to English. And the Quebec media is like, "Huh? Like, okay." So, and then I like the way Pierre pivoted, which is exactly what Pierre was supposed to do.
Wait, before
Pierre,
you pivot, before you talk about the pivot, here's one of the gaffes of Carney trying to speak French. So he was in the media and they asked him a question about why is his cabinet not like Justin Trudeau's and full of women? And so this was his answer here.
There are some liberal women who are criticizing you for having a lot of men in your inner circle, particularly in senior positions. What do you say to them? That's not correct. There are two people working in my office, Janice Charette, she's a woman, and Marco Mendicino, and I have a number of women who are part of my team. And I'm proud of the strong candidates we have recruited.
I'm proud of that woman that works for me, Marco Mendicino.
I mean, I know what he was trying to say. What he was trying to say is, I have half and half, right? I have he was referring to his two chiefs of staff, saying I have a female and a male one. But yeah, he mentioned bad choice, by the way. Why he picked Marco Mendicino is just,
well, he's got all the worst. I mean, he's got Marco Mendicino, he's got David Lametti, Mr. Canadians don't fundamentally have a right to property in Canada. Ah, man, like
there's no new faces to the Liberal Party. There's no new faces, right? I mean, the only new face to the Liberal Party at this point is Mark. Everybody else is Stephen Guilbeault, Christian.
But he's not even a new face. He was the behind the scenes guy for so long in the Liberal Party. Yeah. He was the guy pulling the strings, and now he's out in the open. It's like Canada has gone to Oz. We opened up the doors, we saw the fanfare, and then we went, "Hey, who's that behind the curtain?" And it's
that wasn't his worst screw up in French. So his worst screw up was also yesterday, 2 days ago. He was being he has a lady, a survivor of the École Polytechnique shooting is one of his candidates, right? And he butchered her name, butchered her name. Her last name is Provost, and he butchered it, which is bad enough while she's standing next to him. And then he got the wrong school. He didn't talk about the École Polytechnique. He talked about the shooting at Concordia. It's like, holy shit, dude, he's been out of the country for so long, man. He forgets stuff like that. He's getting twisted on. People are laughing at him because he's making these fundamental mistakes that show that he hasn't been here for very long. So anyways, I feel
we need
good.
To start a pool. We need to start a pool on when Carney loses the election, how many days before he moves out of Canada permanently.
Yeah, no kidding. What else happened that was funny this week? Jagmeet Singh. Right? I mean, actually, before we get to Jagmeet Singh, let's stay on Jagmeet Singh. I mean,
okay.
Jagmeet's irrelevant, right? He's got no money, so Jagmeet can't fly around the country. Jagmeet's got to take the bus around the country, and then, holy smokes! I didn't have this on my bingo card. Thomas Mulcair came out. Thomas Mulcair, former leader of the NDP, came out against Jagmeet. You actually had a guy on your show, right? You had somebody on your show saying that people are trying to get them to get the NDP to change leaders. It's too late now. They're in the middle of an election. Thomas Mulcair said,
Julian Newman is his name, and he's actually going to be on the show tomorrow. So anyone who wants to tune in, this is going to be a fascinating one because we're completely at odds with each other politically. He espouses for socialism. That's his thing. He talks about Marx and Engels, and I'm, you guys know where I'm at. We're going to have a podcast together and we're going to discuss philosophy of political ideology. And I think that's going to be interesting because he's actually a really good guy. So at the end of the day, it's like finally a civil conversation between people who,
but you had him on a show, what, 2 days ago? To talk
a few days ago to talk about wanting to get rid of Jagmeet out of the party. Like they just want him gone.
And it's too late right now, but Thomas Mulcair came out yesterday and said to NDP voters, I don't know if it's a strategy on his part to prevent some splitting or whatever, but he basically said, don't vote for the NDP. The former leader of the NDP said, don't vote for this party. It's like, wow, this is okay. This is, kind of fascinating. So
yeah, it's a new, and this is on the National Post. It's not like he was just saying this on Twitter or whatever. He actually went up and
I've always had a lot of respect for Thomas. Like Thomas right now, he said that. And the other fun thing, interesting thing that Thomas said this week is he's defending Pierre because, again, the Liberals tried to make something out of the fact that Pierre wouldn't sign that NDA for to have access to the full Hogue Commission. And Mulcair said, I wouldn't have signed it either. Like he defended Pierre because the Liberals are trying to make accuse. They're trying to deflect away from Chinese interference. And now they're going with us interfering, Danielle Smith interfering, the Indians interfering. Everybody's interfering except the Chinese. So...
Well, yeah, and Pierre Poilievre, he actually addressed this. I got a clip of that where they're saying, they're asking him about all of the interference that he might be included in, and in not getting the security clearance. I mean, we've gone over this. The NCCOP thing is a trap, so you can't speak about this stuff. We've gone over this a ton, but here's Pierre. This is from Jasmine Lane on X saying, Poilievre goes nuclear on Carney and his ties to China.
Hi, Pierre. I'm Surya from Y Media.
Yes, sir.
So, Globe and Mail has done a story on election interference on conservative leadership campaign. What are your comments on that?
Well, first of all, let's quote from that Globe and Mail article. I'm going to quote here. CSIS also did not have evidence that Mr. Poilievre or members of his inner circle were aware of these alleged actions. Then I'm going to quote the Hogue Commission, and I quote, the commission heard testimony about allegations of the government India interference in the Conservative Party leadership race. CSIS witnesses noted that they had no reason to believe the impacted candidates would have been aware of the alleged support. Let's be honest. I won the leadership fair and square. Even my political competitors, like Mr. Patrick Brown, have publicly testified under oath that that was the case. But I'm glad that the Liberals put this attack out today. Really glad. Because there's something that's really been worrying me. After Justin Trudeau named Mark Carney his economic advisor, giving him massive power over public policy in Canada, Mr. Carney went over for meetings in Beijing, where he just had secret talks with the deputy governor of the Chinese central bank. 2 weeks later, Brookfield got a $250 million loan. What did they talk about? What did Mr. Carney in his role as Trudeau's economic advisor offer of China? Why would he be having secret meetings with top government-controlled bankers about getting a $250 million loan while he was supposed to be acting in Canada's interest as the Prime Minister's economic advisor? Why would he be collaborating with a hostile foreign regime that we have since learned executed 4 Canadians and took numerous Canadians hostage for a lengthy period of time? And given that Mr. Carney knows that he still owns massive financial interests in Brookfield, which owes a $250 million to a Chinese state-controlled bank, how do we know he's not going to act against our interests in favor of his financial interests? Why didn't he stand in front of this microphone and confess to Canadians that he owes the Chinese government that kind of money?
Well, because he wouldn't. I mean, that's the thing. But no, what a play though. Like Pierre Poilievre coming out and saying, turning the tables on Carney. You are not only are you have like interests that are outside of Canada's interests. You have interests that are indebted to an adversarial country to us. Like this is the conflict of interest that we absolutely can't afford in Canada. Period.
Yeah, no, it's like I said, Pierre's finding his stride and everything's working out good now. I mean, like we said last week, let Carney talk. So whenever Carney gets asked questions, let him talk, because he'll say silly things. The people ask, like he won't. This week people are saying, "Will you disclose your assets in the Bahamas or whatever?" And he just, that was so confusing and so mockerish that okay, let him talk. And then let him attack you, because the Liberal attack points are so silly, and Pierre is putting it back in their face. So at some point, the Liberals are going to go, okay, we got to stop doing this because it's hurting us. And then on the absolute offensive, Pierre's finally putting out policies that the Liberals cannot steal. They can't, make it true conservative policies. We're going to give you tax breaks. Like Carney last week said, we're going to give you a 1% tax break, or I'm going to get rid of the carbon tax. And Poilievre said, hold my beer. Check this out, right? Like, what did Poilievre say today? I'm going to increase the personal exemption rates for seniors to $25,000. Woo, that's huge. I'm going to lower the middle income tax bracket from 15% to 12.75. That's huge. Like, he's doing that. And it's so huge that Carney this week said, again, when he's asked a question and you let him talk, Carney said, the Conservatives are cutting too much tax. Okay, that's awesome. Let him talk. Let him talk, man. Let him talk.
Noted. Okay.
Yeah,
the
let him
Conservatives
talk.
are cutting too much.
Too much tax. Yeah. And then he got so twisted in his words that he eventually said, well, tax breaks don't help workers anyways. Like I was like, wow, okay, yeah, let him talk. Like, yeah, that was a smart move actually on Pierre's part. That was a really smart move, increasing the, you and I talked about this, right? It's the opposite of a tax. Like, instead of a tax cut, increasing the amount that you don't pay taxes on, like increasing the personal amount for seniors. I like that. I wish he'd increase the personal amount for every Canadian. But
targeted tax cuts help. Targeted tax cuts help a ton. And here's one that's happening just south of us. This is not Pierre Poilievre doing this. This is Donald Trump. Kirk Lubermoff pointing this out. Wow, Donald Trump administration is looking to make auto loans on in America made cars tax deductible for people. So any loan that you get, whatever interest you're going to pay on that is completely tax deductible. We're trying to get it approved if we can. If you borrow money to buy a car, you're allowed to deduct the interest payments for purposes of income tax, but only if the car is made in America. That's massive. That's massive.
They already do that with. Oh, I thought you were going to play the kid. They do that with their mortgages, which is fantastic, right? But at least, on a mortgage, that's an appreciating asset. I think it's going to work, and it's a nice break on taxes. But it does encourage the wrong behavior. It does encourage spending, it's their economy. It's I would take advantage of it.
I would disagree there. I don't think it's going to encourage spending. What I'd say is it's going to for people who are going to spend on a new car. So this is their year where they need to buy a new car. It's going to encourage them to buy something that was manufactured in in America. That's their idea. So anything that was like finalized, so anything that went through the Windsor assembly plant is exempt from that tax break. They'll have to pay if they want to get that model. They'll have to pay that, or there'll be no exemption on that tax. So
that was, and that ties into the other announcement today. I mean, Trump announced the tariffs, right? They are going ahead. They're putting a tariff on Canadian-made cars imported into the U.S. I find that a little bit bizarre because they're made by American manufacturers, right? Like, I'm surprised he didn't distinguish and say, you know, the Toyotas and the Hondas made in Canada. I would have thought he would have put an exemption on, let's say, the Ford F-150. But and again,
so there have been carve outs. So what was not mentioned, and it's not mentioned by a lot of people reporting on this, is it starts at 2.9% and goes all the way to 25%. Now, now this being said, so let's just be honest. Canada has a 45% tariff on American-made cars coming into Canada. So for all of the retaliatory people that say we should have reciprocal things, well, this is still under reciprocal. So come April 2nd, if Canada, this is going to be a worldwide thing with the United States. Come April 2nd, it's going to be reciprocal tariffs for every country that has trade barriers and trade restrictions, tariffs, any kind on all of their goods. So this is up to 25% is nothing compared to the 45% that's coming if Canada doesn't let those tariffs down. So this is a big deal.
Yeah. Oh no, it's a huge deal. I mean, the car tariff is probably one of the most effective, most immediately impactful tariff he can do, because you know that Ford and Chrysler and them will move their assembly plants back to the U.S. That's going to, if it stays long term like that, they'll move. You know, I'm not worried about tariffs he's putting on oil, because that takes a lot longer to replace our oil. So when he puts a tariff on our oil, Alberta's oil, they're still going to buy it, because it'll take him 5 years to find an alternative. But when he puts a tariff on the Ford F-150, whoever was thinking of buying an F-150 from Canada is immediately going to buy something else. So that tariff hurts immediately. And that was another goof by Carney. He's like, oh, I'm going to put $2 billion in and we're going to make our own cars. I'm like, dude, we haven't designed a car in Canada in 30 years. Like, who's going to design that car?
We talked about this. There's one and forever ago, and it was a rare, like, limited edition kind of car.
Somebody said to me, oh, well, Bombardier can make cars. I'm like, really? Bombardier? Oh, great. So now we're going to subsidize Bombardier in Quebec to make cars and planes. And, so
that doesn't sound like a crony deal at all. Now, here's another thing that's kind of upsetting here for a lot of people, obviously. So, just with another executive order, this is put up by George, who's a big fan of what Trump's doing. Says steel plants in Canada have begun layoffs of hundreds of workers due to President Trump's tariffs. Meanwhile, companies are rushing to bring their operations to America to avoid the tariffs. CEOs of Ontario's Algoma Steel, which my dad worked for Algoma all those years ago, says he's expected a tidal wave of more layoffs to come. The director of the United Steelworkers of Canada estimates that 100,000 Canadian workers will be affected in the next few months. Now, I did tweet this out, and I wanted to say, like, this is the hard truth, right? This is the hard truth here. It's our political class in Canada that's selling us out, not Trump. Because they're not listening to what Trump is having to say. He wants to lower the tariffs. That's the whole idea. Do the national security stuff. Invest in the military. Get buy a bunch of munitions from the United States. He'll probably put the tariffs down. Go in, negotiate with them. But we've got Carney. He's like, the first thing he's going to do, he'll go off to Europe. He doesn't want to talk to Trump. Pierre Poilievre's too scared to talk to Trump in case the wrong idea gets out there. But I said everyone would go right back to work if Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario, which is where Algoma Steel is, were to join Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan. Income taxes would go down, and these workers would have a lower cost of living. It would improve immediately. Now, that is what Trump wants. This is what Trump is asking for. He's asking for these regions to want to become part of America. This is the goal, and it's like this. If people start looking at it this way, it's working.
Yeah, well, look at what Carney did last week. He flew to the Arctic and he announced that we're going to spend $6 billion on a new radar system that we're buying from Australia. Like, you should have bought it from the Americans. And then he went to Halifax and he said, he gave a $22 billion contract for 3 destroyers from Irving shipyards. He could have bought 3 destroyers from the Americans. And that was another funny one. Like, Carney, just like, again, Carney, shut up. Like, he's standing on the docks there and he's like, any made in Canada vessel should be made in with Canadian steel or whatever. And then somebody said, should it be fueled with Canadian oil? And then he's like turning around going like, can you make this person shut up? Like you got to be careful, man. Your made in Canada strategy is like, it's going to bite you. You gotta, and then somebody else even said, can those Navy ships be manned by Canadian soldiers? Because what have we announced in the last couple of weeks? That we're lowering standards and we're giving immediate citizenship to anybody who comes to Canada and joins the military. Like it's you got to pick a lane and you got to be consistent. And yeah, you got to listen to what Trump's saying. They're not listening to what Trump's saying. They're just foolishly fighting Trump, and we're not going to win.
No, that's the thing. And the thing is, Canadians, right-headed Canadians are gonna slowly turn around and say, listen, we got a better deal with Trump than what we got with what's going on here. Now, my biggest fear is if we get a Pierre Poilievre government and they don't move on a lot of things. Say they don't move, Pierre Poilievre drags his feet on transfer payments. There is some serious consideration of leaving Canada on the part of Alberta. And it's polling at like 40% right now.
I was at a meeting this afternoon. I was at a meeting with Jeff Rath and a whole bunch of other people with the delegation that's getting ready to go to the U.S. Alberta independence at an all-time high, or the Alberta independence sentiments at an all-time high. Hey, we're running out of time. We're gonna. Yeah, I was there. There was very well presented, very good arguments. Jeff, the sentiment is some people think we should just do this. That all Alberta should do right now is try and get a referendum. And send a message to Ottawa that we're serious about, wanting more sovereignty, and we want a deal similar to Quebec. And Jeff and those guys are like, no, we're past that. We don't want the same deal as Quebec. We want full blown
independence
at this point, because the Americans make us a deal, make us an offer, Ottawa. We'll take either we go on our own or we take the American offer. Hey, but like I said before, we're running out of time, but can we talk about one other funny thing? I found it funny and shows the desperation in Carney this week. Did you see his hockey ad with Mike Myers on Monday?
I couldn't watch it. I stayed away from it, but I'll pull it out because I was like, oh, it's just the most cringe that I could ever think of.
It is so cringe.
Because Mike Myers, wasn't he just a few years ago super proud to become an American citizen, and he was all about becoming an American citizen. So I don't know what to say about that.
Maybe we don't need to play it. I mean, people have probably all seen it, but I found that the opening salvo of Mark Carney was to do a weird propaganda video where he invited, he made it. Yeah, there you go. Just play it. It's short, right? Or the first 30 seconds.
Mr. Prime Minister, Mike Myers, what are you doing here? I just thought I'd come up and check on things.
You live in the States.
Yeah, but I'll always be Canadian. But
you live in Europe.
In the States.
Yeah, so? Do you remember Mr. Dressup, the children's show on CBC? What were the names of Mr. Dressup's two puppet friends? Casey and Finnegan, Bud the Spud, Howie, Meeker, Capital Saskatchewan, Regina, tragically, Hip. You're a defenseman, defending a 2-on-1. What do? Take away the pass, obviously. What are the 2 seasons in Toronto? Winter and construction. Wow, you really are Canadian. Yeah, but let me ask you, Mr. Prime Minister.
Cringe.
It's so
I don't know.
Cringe. Carney's trying to trying to convince people that he's a Canadian. He hasn't lived in Canada for 10 years, 15 years. Mike Myers hasn't lived in Canada for 25. Love Mike, but Mike is, and you can't
don't make me hate you, Mike. Don't make me
hate you. But I, I understand why you left Canada. You left Canada because the taxes are cheaper in the US than they are here. So then don't come and shove this garbage down my throat that you're still Canadian and blah, blah, blah. You both did the right thing by you, but don't try and pretend that you're something else now, And so,
well, that's the thing. Mike Myers. So I put out a tweet. I said, listen, I welcome Mike Myers to come back to where I said Mississauga, but I guess he's from Scarborough. to come back and register for his taxes, the taxes be at the Canadian tax rate, because this is what Canadians are about right now. Canadians want less taxes, but this guy who's not going to pay any Canadian taxes is advocating for a government that's going to tax the citizenry more. It's absurd. I can't stand. I can't let that happen.
Yeah, and then what else was, like when you dissect a video like that, like it's basically two guys reminiscing about the good old days.
Yeah,
nostalgia. Remember the good old days, nostalgia. The CBC was great. We watch, The Friendly Giant, The Tragically Hip. So you're nostalgic for a days gone by, but what they don't remember is the last 10 years, which the rest of us have endured. And then they have the gall, he has the gall, Carney, to tell us that we need a great reset. So are you nostalgic about the years gone by, or do we need a great reset? I'll tell you what, I am nostalgic for the years gone by, and that's why I want you guys gone, and I'll be happy to go back to the way things were prior to you guys coming in. Like, he's basically, by being nostalgic for the good old days, he's basically admitting that what happened during the last 10 years under the Liberals
was
bad. Yeah, because if it was good, he'd be bragging about that. So anyways, it's first week 1 of the Canadian election. It's off to a good start.
Marty, where can people find you?
Marty Up North on Twitter is where I've been. Come find me on Twitter. Last week I pleaded with you guys to find me on YouTube, which I absolutely appreciate that everybody did. Folks, the throttling and the censorship is real. So when we say hit that like button for Clyde, it's absolutely truthful. We need to work on the algorithms, and you need to interact a little bit with me. Give me a like or whatever on Twitter, just a little bit, because I can notice the throttling that's happening right now. When I put that video of Carney up yesterday from the World Economic Forum, it was like the lights went out instantly. Like my analytics just crashed. I'm like, wow, you guys are really watching this stuff. Like, they don't want us to. I don't know how it works. I don't like. Do you think, I know we're getting just a little, do you think people like our governments can call on Elon and pay some amount of money to have us throttled? Like, it sure looks like it. I know it's hard to, it's I guess it's the way the algorithms work, right? I mean, I don't know. I being too critical of the Liberals definitely got me throttled yesterday. I can tell. Anyways, find me on Marty Up North on Twitter, folks.